Alright, what's up folks? I know it's taken a while and I did say I would try to upload this BFS shootout video ASAP, but I've been a bit busy and well, as anglers you have a choice of doing something versus fishing that isn't work related. You tend to choose fishing, so I kind of have been out fishing whenever I can this past week, but finally I've gotten down to recording this footage for the BFS shootout. Like I mentioned, I actually shot the actual casting footage. I already shot it alongside the regular bait casting reel shootout. So I've tabulated the results of the BFS shootout and I have them in front of me. But before I continue with this video, so when recording the footage for the regular reel shootout, I actually recorded a little snippet of myself talking about casting distance and how you as a viewer should view a casting shootout like this. But then when I put the whole video together, I kind of thought, hey, you know what? I don't think anyone would miss the point of a casting shootout, so I don't really need to include that part in. I don't want to make the video unnecessarily long. But contrary to what I thought, after posting the video, I actually had folks ask me questions like, oh, BCSG, if you're going to be doing a casting shootout, right, if you wanted to get distance, why don't you just use spinning gear? What is the point of doing a distance shootout? Etc., stuff like that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and explain it in this video. The purpose of doing, or at least my purpose of doing this shootout, be it the BFS shootout, be it a regular reel shootout, any kind of shootout, the purpose is not maximum distance. The point of a shootout, or this shootout, is how each reel casts in relation to the other reels in the shootout. I mean, what would be the point of doing a shootout to test for maximum distance? That would be 0 point doing that because there's nothing to compare it to. That would be a pointless video. So that's why I just wanted to clarify that, just so that everyone kind of gets the point of why anyone would do a shootout video. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, we can go ahead and talk about how this BFS shootout turned out. But first, let me talk about the reels in this shootout. Okay, I'll do it in a similar fashion as the last video where I will keep talking and then I'll roll some pictures with all the info. So the first reel in this shootout is the Shimano Core 51 MG7. Now that I have like 5 or 6 BFS-ish reels, okay? Of all my reels, my Core 51 MG7 is my absolute favorite. Not because it casts the furthest or anything, but just because it's firstly my oldest reel. Secondly, I just like it. It's my favorite reel of all the reels. Okay, and you're gonna, as I'm talking, you're gonna be seeing all the information, the price, the approximate price, because a lot of these reels are no longer in production. The approximate price, how much, the weight of the reel, different from the previous video. In this video, I'm actually including the spool weights because the spool weight, as we know for BFS, does pretty drastically affect the casting performance of the reel. However, if you watch this video to the end, there's a little bit of a confusion going on here after doing this BFS shootout. Alright, so the second reel in the shootout is also a Shimano reel. It's my Curado 51E. Just like the Core, it's the same platform as the Core MG. The only difference is the Core is magnesium, meaning it's a lot lighter than the Curado. But like the Core, it is also modified with almost the exact same parts. The same bearings, the same spool, just in a different color and stuff like that. So one would expect the casting performance to be similar at the very least. Okay, so the third reel in the shootout is one that is pretty well known in the BFS community. It is the Abu AE74 LTZ. It is, I think, in terms of stock reel, it is one of the most expensive reels. It is the most expensive reel in this shootout. I believe it retails for like, I don't know, 500 something. Yeah, but the difference is this is the only one that somewhat comes BFS ready out of the box. It comes with a shallow spool. The shallow spool is pretty impressive. It's pretty light, and yeah, it comes with two spools. You switch out the deep spool for the shallow spool, and you're more or less good to go. But even then, I still modified the reel somewhat, mostly aesthetically, but I did change the bearings to Hedgehog Air bearings. Okay, so the last reel in the shootout, and also the whole point of this shootout, is the Surinoya Whirlwind XF50L, L standing for left hand retrieve. This is a $75 to $80 reel depending on when you order it, and all, you know, things go on sale. The prices vary a little bit on AliExpress, but let's just call it a $75 to $80 reel. Now this reel is claims to be a out of the box BFS reel. It comes with a shallow spool and all that stuff that you would think a typical BFS reel would come with, except the price tag. The cheapest BFS reel you can find on the market right now, in terms of from the big brands, is about $300, maybe $280. If you hunt down a Shimano Brenius, you know, you might be able to find that for like 200 something, second hand for like $200. But that would be the absolute cheapest you can get. Everything else is at least $300. This one right here is $75. And well, let's cut straight to the casting footage and see how all these reels perform against one another. Let's go.
Alright folks, so the first reel we're going to be doing for the BFS shootout is my Curado 51E. Okay, so the rod we will be casting all of this on is the Trouting Marquise, Abu Garcia Trouting Marquise. It's rated for 4 to 8 pounds, but it's a trout rod. So really, when you kind of convert that to bass rod terms, this is like a 1 to 5 pound rod or a 2 to 6 pound bass BFS rod. Okay, and let's get straight to it. I have my counter set up and Curado 51E, cast number 1. Alright, so we have 23 and a half. Okay, Curado 51E, cast number 2. $24 and a half. Alright, Curado 51E, cast number 3. $25, cast number 4. $24. Okay, Curado 51E, cast number 5. $23 and a half. Alright, Abu Revo LTZ AE74, cast number 1. $24.5. Alright, you know what? The leader is a lot shorter for this reel, so I'm gonna give that a 24. Okay, let me set a new reel up point. So let's stop it right about there. Alright, let's see. Okay, for the AE74 we're gonna stop it as soon as the FG knot hits the first guide. Yeah, we got to make it fair, because for all the other reels I stopped reeling pretty much when the lure was there. Okay, AE74, cast number 2. $23. Cast number 3. 23. AE74 cast number 4. 22. Last cast number 5. 24.5. Okay, Core 51 MG7 cast number 1. 21 meters. Alright, Core 51 MG7 cast number 2. 21. Cast number 3. 22. Cast number 4. 20.5. Cast number 5. Core 51 MG7. 21. Alright, last but not least, we have the star of the show, or well, not really the star, but the focus of this whole BFS shootout, which is the Surinoya XF50L, cast number 1. 22.5. XF50 cast number 2. 23.5. Number 3. 25.5. Number 4. 24.5. Alright, last cast number 5. 23.
Alright folks, so that's it for the casting shootout. I don't know if it's a thing with my shootouts, but it's another surprise, or upset, or pleasant surprise, whatever you want to call it. My Core 51 MG7, my favorite reel of all time, is all the way at the bottom with an average of 21.3 meters. I don't know, maybe my thumb was being weird when I was casting it, but still my favorite reel. Don't get me wrong, I'm just a bit surprised and slightly disappointed by the result there. Of course, closely followed by that is the Abu AE74, 23.8 average of the top 3 casts, that is. And that was, I don't want to say that's expected. I kind of expected the AE74 to place, in fact I was expecting it to place as the longest casting of all the reels, because personally, using all these reels, even though the Core and the Shimano's are clearly my favorites, the Abu does cast the furthest, at least in my personal use scenarios, because it's a magnetic brake reel. As much as I prefer centrifugal brakes, I do consistently get further casting distances with magnetic brake reels, simply because of the way magnetic brakes work. They apply an equal or a uniform brake force throughout the entire cast, while centrifugal brakes apply a stronger brake force the faster the spool spins. So you could say that centrifugal brakes limit the maximum speed of the spool, whereas magnetic brakes don't. Somewhat. And therefore that translates to further casting distance. So I was actually surprised. And remember, I'm just human. Any number of things could have happened. You know, my thumb could have just been a bit weird. My casting stroke, maybe even though I did 5 casts, maybe those 5 casts were not my 5 best casts. But I tried to make it all as uniform as I possibly could. I think 5 is a good enough number to get a decent average, especially if you take the top 3 of those 5. So yeah, I expected that the AE74 to be on top. It turned out to be in 3rd place. And then of course we have the Tsurinoya and the Curado tying for 1st place, and that one is a real surprise. Not so much the Curado, I already know it casts very well. It's the Tsurinoya. But why is it so surprising to me? It's not just cause it's $75. Of course, if you saw how much the other reels cost, the total cost after modifications and all that, in fact, I think all of the reels cost at least 8 to 10 times what the Tsurinoya costs. But that's not even the thing that boggles my mind. What is mind-boggling is the weight of the spool. Let me put the picture up again. Alright? If you take a look, the spool weight of the Tsurinoya reel is 19 grams. Now of course it has a bearing on it, and I removed the bearing. The bearing is 1.5 grams, and I weighed the spool again and it's 17.5 grams. That is really, really heavy for any spool. And of course I did take a weight. If I can find a picture, the picture will be here. I took a weight of the empty spool before I put line on it. I think it's like 13.2 grams or something like that. And that is heavy for a BFS spool. In fact, it's not just heavy, it's extremely heavy. The most expensive, the most expensive, lightest spools out there tend to hover around 6.8 to 7.5 grams, and then it slowly goes up to about 11 grams. Some of the stock BFS spools on some BFS reels, they go up to 11 grams, but very rarely do you see a BFS spool break 11 grams. And this one is 13. Putting line on it, it's 17. Adding the bearing, which does not affect casting performance of the spool, or at least I don't think it does, in my opinion. That you have a 19 gram spool versus, what was it, 8 grams, 9 grams for the Shimano, for the Avail Microcast Shimano spools. I think you have like 11 grams with a bearing for the LTZ spool. If you take out the bearing, I assume it's also about 1.5 grams, so you've got a sub 10 gram spool for the AE74 as well. So all the 3 other reels, and to my best knowledge, every single BFS reel except the Brenius on the market right now has a sub 10 gram spool. So for a spool that is 13.2 grams empty and 19 grams filled, to cast, to tie for 1st place in a distance test, and as you've seen in my first impressions video, to be able to cast all the way down to a 2.2 gram pins minnow, that kind of throws a wrench into the understanding, into my understanding of the relationship between spool weight and cast distance come lure weight. So what's the takeaway here? What do I take away from this, aside from the fact that I'm a bit more confused now than I was before I did this shootout? The only thing that makes sense to me, ruling out the fact that human error, which is always a possibility, okay, ruling out human error just for the sake of argument, the only logical conclusion that can explain the outcome of this is that perhaps spool depth has more of an influence on casting distance and casting weight than I previously thought. You see, because I always thought that the biggest, single most important aspect that would affect casting performance for light stuff is the weight of the spool. But it would seem here that the results kind of challenge what I believe. Of course, like I've mentioned before, there's science behind this. It's physics. A lighter spool has a lower moment of inertia. Or, I hope I'm not screwing all the terminology up, but basically it takes less force to start the spool spinning, and therefore, and smaller lures exert less force as they fly, and therefore a spool that requires less force to turn would be able to cast a lighter lure. That is the physics side of it. of spool weight. Now let's talk about spool depth. So you have a circle, right? If you pull the circle from here, right on the tip, it requires less force than if you were to try to turn the circle from somewhere down here. You know, it's like trying to turn a wheel by rolling the wheel versus trying to turn that same wheel by turning the axle manually. Okay? It's going to be significantly harder to turn the axle manually because, you know, you're all the way in there. So that is the logic behind how spool depth could affect casting performance. So could it be that I've misunderstood the relationship between weight and casting performance? Put a bit too much weight on the spool weight, if you get what I mean, you know, pun not intended, and put too little weight on the spool depth, the shallow spool. Maybe a shallow spool in itself plays the bigger role in castability and how light of a lure that any given reel can cast. It can't be the bearings. I mean, even if it was Japanese bearings, right? I have Air BFS bearings, some of the best bearings on the market. So, can't be a bearing issue. You know, what else? I mean, if you guys can think of something else that, besides stating the obvious that I could have just fudged it up because of human error, besides that, if any one of you can think of any reason that can explain the casting performance of this reel, comment in the comment section below, because I'm a bit confused myself. Alright folks, so if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. Share my videos with your friends, especially those who are looking to get into BFS. I think we might have we might be getting close to breaking that price barrier. And really, depending on how this performs and all that, we're getting really close. So if you have any friends that are looking to get in the genre, share this video with them. Share my videos in general with them. You know, hit the subscribe button right now if you haven't already subscribed. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Bam!